Hi, everybody. This is Brandon, the cleaning operator, back at it again. Today, we're going to talk about how to hire good cleaning staff and a lot of the mistakes that I see people making out there. Um, for example, I hired someone once who could clean a bathroom faster than anyone else on my team. However, that same person also lost me three customers in a period of 2 months. That's what happens when you're hiring for the wrong things. I see owners make this mistake often. You need someone quickly. You have more work than you can handle, and you have a candidate that has experience. They can start on Monday, so it's a go. You hire them. Within 6 weeks, you find out there's all sorts of problems, right? You end up dealing with customer complaints, no call, no shows. They've got bigger and better things to do than be there for you when they're supposed to be. They think because they have cleaning experience that they don't need to follow your standards or your instructions on the way that you do things. They kind of just have it in their mind to do it the way they want, or maybe they don't even have experience, but they just seem like good people, but maybe your intuition was a little bit off, and then you end up finding out that you're going to have all sorts of problems. I've done that too. I've hired people out of desperation, unfortunately, more than once. I've talked myself into accepting all of the red flags that I saw because I just needed a body to fill the position to get the cleaning done because I had more jobs than I could handle. So this video is going to be about systems that I actually use to be able to hire people, and I do it remotely. So how I hire them remotely and get them trained, how I screen them. I'm pretty strict with my screening, and how to build a team that's not going to fall apart. Not going to be theory. It's not a bunch of HR advice. This is what I actually do in my everyday business. Before I get into the system, let's talk about what it actually is going to cost you. So I want you to understand and not underestimate the cost. The cleaning industry has a huge turnover problem, and it's not a small problem. Industry-wide turnover in the cleaning industry runs anywhere from 75% on the low end to 200% annually, which essentially what that means, if you sit with it for a moment, means that there are some cleaning companies out there that are replacing their entire staff twice a year, every year. That's crazy turnover, and that is not the norm within other industries. However, it is in the cleaning industry. And every replacement that you have in that turnover is costing you real money. Costing you money for recruiting, it's costing you money to screen them, to onboard them, to train them. And then there's that's just the direct cost, but there's other costs of what is it costing you on the back end that you're not thinking about. For example, let's say you hire someone who is a bad hire, right? Someone you brought on, you trained, you deployed them out in the field. Now you have to cut them because they're creating problems. This is where it gets really expensive. If you're running a cleaning business and you have reoccurring customers like I do, your average reoccurring customer, their lifetime value is probably mine's around 1800. Maybe yours is a little higher, maybe a little lower. The idea still is those recurring customers are worth real money to you. And that's $1,800, meaning that's money actually in your pocket after you've paid all your other expenses, after you've paid labor. That's actual money in your pocket. That's what they're worth. They actually end up giving you more revenue, but it goes to overhead. What happens if that new cleaner that you just hired, trained, deployed, but they're a really bad fit? What if they go out there and they lose you 3 to 5 customers in a period of 2 to 3 months? Now it's costing you a ton of money, right? So you might have an employee that you send out to customers' homes, but they're sharp with their customers. They're just not nice. They're a little bit cruel. They're very, no, I'm not going to do that, or yes, I'll do that. Fine, whatever. Right? Like if you send someone out that is not personable, not kind, doesn't have good character, doesn't take responsibility, leaves things undone, then the reality is they're costing you relationships with your customers, right? You could lose two, three, 4 or 5 customers before you even realize that this is a significant issue, because not every customer is going to tell you, oh, it's because of that one bad employee. because they might not know you. They might be a brand new customer, and this is just the experience that they have with your company. And so they've decided they don't like your company as a whole. Little do you know, it's actually the fact that you had a bad hire. So, and that's not also counting all the bad reviews that you can get. The other cleaners that once you fire them now have to absorb all of their jobs and the work that was assigned to them, all the management time that you then have to put into it, fixing the schedule, dealing with an unruly employee. And then who knows, on the back end, maybe they're one of those employees that they decide after they're fired for performance issues or for customer service issues that now they're going to throw a fit. They're going to try to get unemployment and do all these other sorts of things. And don't get me wrong, they might be entitled to unemployment. And if they are, then you should do the responsible thing and pay them. But I mean, if you've ever had a bad experience with an employee, which I have as well, sometimes they will certainly try to take advantage of you and take things excuse me, way further than they ever should be taking them. So it's not just a $1,500 problem of, oh man, I had some issues with, I had to recruit them, I had to train them and onboard them, and it cost me $1,500 to get them up and running. No, if they lose you 3 to 5 reoccurring customers, this could be a $15,000 problem if you look at it in terms of your annual lost revenue. And that's just from a single bad hire. So understand it's an issue. Career Builder is a company that have studied this, right? They say that the average cost of a bad hire across different industries is around $17,000. That's not just the cleaning industry, that's in general, but it's still important to know. The U.S. Department of Labor says that it's roughly 30% of a person's first year of earnings. So if you were going to pay them $35,000, that means you're losing probably around $11,000 to $12,000 based off of that bad hire. So we're not talking about a minor inconvenience. We are talking about some expensive operational issues going on by hiring a bad person. So here's the part that also makes it worse for the cleaning industry specifically. 65% of cleaning companies say that finding staff is one of their single biggest challenges, which means that most owner operators are hiring from a position of pressure and urgency. It's more of an emotional hire because you're just trying to get someone to do the cleaning, which is the exact conditions that is going to give you bad hiring decisions in the first place. So I understand the feeling. I've been there, but the math doesn't lie. It's an issue, and we need to handle it and handle it appropriately. So being short a cleaner for 3 weeks is a painful thing. If you have a schedule that the work is just overflowing and you're short, it's painful. Nobody wants to lose jobs or decline a customer because you don't have the staffing. But hiring the wrong person and keeping them for 3 months is by far worse than you turning away someone. It is better to be upfront with a customer, let them know you're a little overwhelmed at the moment, that you're working on hiring, and to, plead with them where you can try to maybe come back to them a month later or 2 months later, try to work something out, maybe give them a discount and incentive to come back at a later time than it is for you to hire somebody, shove them through the door, get them through the system as quickly as possible, just so you can take on new customers, which most of them might take issue with if it's a bad hire anyway. So here's the core shift that my entire hiring process is built around. I do not hire people based on my needs at that moment. I do not hire people primarily for their cleaning experience. I don't actually care if they have experience. I hire people all the time with no cleaning experience, and they turn out to be some of my best cleaners. I know that that can sound backwards, but also there's a lot of other people in the industry that might say the same thing. Here's the thing, cleaning can be trained. You can train someone to clean, you can train someone to get quicker on the job. You can even train your specific company standards. What you cannot train is good character. You cannot train someone to be punctual, be responsible, to be coachable, or to have good communication, right? That is their character. That is who they are, right? The way that they handle correction, you cannot train that. The way that someone treats a customer when they think you're not watching is not something you can train. These are not skills. This is who the person actually is. And I think ultimately this is what matters when it comes to hiring good people in the first place. Sure, a little bit can be intuitive, but there's also ways to systematize this. So you're not going based on your emotions, but rather a system that can actually help you do this objectively. So in this business, you're not hiring someone to just clean. The way I look at it personally is you're hiring someone to walk into a stranger's home and represent your company, to be able to handle feedback without getting defensive, to be able to communicate clearly when something goes seriously wrong, to be trustworthy with customers' belongings, but also to be trustworthy with the time clock. Uh, the reality is, and this is the way I look at it, is you are hiring a relationship manager who also does cleaning. You're not hiring cleaning staff. You're hiring a relationship manager who also does cleaning. If the cleaning goes wrong, right? You can just retrain them. If the character is wrong, you're gonna have a problem no matter what you do. Nothing you can do to change them. And research backs this up. One study found that 46% of new hires fail within the first 18 months. And when they fail, it is almost always because they couldn't do the job. It's attitude, it's coachability, it's interpersonal problems in the workplace. So this entire process is built around one question before anything else. That is, who is the person that I'm going to be? Who are they? Not what they can do, but who are they? So let me walk you through how I do this and what it looks like in practical steps. We try to source all of our potential candidates from ZipRecruiter and Indeed. ZipRecruiter personally has been our best source consistently. A lot of times people will look on social media, they'll ask friends and family. Those are usually the worst sources, actually, just are. They come with some emotional attachment. It's usually someone who needs a job rather than them being the best fit. And because we want to lend a hand out and do a favor, and we need someone to fill the position, we'll end up saying yes when we in reality we shouldn't. So ZipRecruiter is what we use the most. We also use Indeed, but ZipRecruiter has been very good to us. Here's why this matters, right? Again, if you want to be selective, you need volume. You need more candidates. You don't need a few family, friend members, whatever, that are not going to be great options in the first place. You need a large number of candidates that you can filter down from that pool, and you want enough flow of candidates coming in where you can walk away from all of the people that have red flags. And you want to be able to do that without panicking, thinking you're never going to find someone. So step one, what I do is I'll run an ad looking for candidates on ZipRecruiter, on Indeed, and we'll collect all of the candidates' information. And we will screen them. We'll go through. We'll see, do you have any work history? Do you have any experience? And it's okay if they don't. It's fine. I just want to know who I'm dealing with. If I see any red flags in their actual resume, like they don't know how to communicate and write a sentence, that's probably not going to work out for us. I need someone who's a strong communicator, who can communicate to the customer and who can communicate with me via text and via email and be able to handle this job. If they cannot write their resume correctly, probably not going to be a great communicator. I won't do that. I will also look through and find out again if they mentioned getting fired. Sometimes people put too much on their resume. If they mention anything at all that would be an immediate really red flag, I just get rid of them. I'm not going to spend the time trying to deal with that. Once I've narrowed down all the candidates and gone through them and screened them, we'll offer to do a group interview. We'll schedule a group interview on Zoom because I do it remotely. I don't meet with everybody in person. And I know that that might be a little unconventional in the cleaning industry, but it's been working well for us, and we've been doing it for a little over 2 years now. So I bring multiple candidates in all at once. I ask them structured questions, and I also score every answer on a 1 to 5 scale. So if I have, and my questions change pretty regularly, so I'm not here to give you a list of questions. I would recommend you try writing a list of questions that you think are beneficial. And if you realize that you're getting the same generic answers to these questions over and over and over, remove that question and try something different. You want to ask questions that are going to give you unique answers. So that way you can begin to find out more about the character of the individual and how they communicate. If it's a generic answer that they're going to give you, it's easy to rehearse. You're not really going to learn much about their communication or about them and their character. So go through your questions, add new ones, remove old ones, keep it fresh. It's something you're going to have to do in order to come up with a really good list. And we're still in that process. Even though I have a list of questions that I think are pretty good, there might be one or two of them that are on the chopping block. And I'm always looking to also add some new. So, anyway, group interview on Zoom, have structured questions. If you have, say, 8 people in the group interview, great. Each one of them is going to get a scorecard on each question. So if you have 10 questions, they're going to have a possible of up to 50 points that they can get. And I'll score each one of them. And then what I'll also do is that's just on the questions, but I'll also score them on their punctuality. Did they show up on time? I'll score them on whether or not they did any research about my business beforehand. And then I'll also score them on the structure of their answers. Do they sound intelligible? Can they communicate well? And that's just like an overall scoring. And so that's an extra 15 points. So I might have 65 points total, and that allows me to score and give these potential candidates an actual objective number. So even if I think I might like one more than the other, if this other candidate scored consistently better, even though maybe I don't have as many things in common with them, I'm still going to give them the position because they're most likely going to be the better fit. So that's how I run my group interviews. I come up with questions, I score each one objectively, and I'm not the only one to do scoring. I also have my general manager. He comes in, he does the interviews with me, and he does his own scoring sheet as well. And then we compare our score sheets and we talk about it afterward. So that's what it looks like a little bit. In the group interview, I am not going to be asking myself if I like this person. I'm watching to know, again, how are they communicating in a group setting amongst one another? How prepared are they? How much thought they're putting into their answers? I want to know and be able to compare them in a group with people. So those are the kind of things you should look for. Also, if they're answering with like a lot of fluff, it's not helpful, right? If they're just fluffing their answers up, but there's no real content, there's no experience, they're not speaking from something that they've been through or learned, then that might, yes, it doesn't necessarily mean it's a red flag, but it means, their answers are not all that great. It's again, it's an answer that anybody could kind of conjure up and just give. So you want to try to get answers that are real, that are genuine. You can even tell them at the beginning of the group interview that that's what you're looking for, and that's okay. So these are the things to look at and make no apologies for the high bar that you have set, right? If they come in and they're not dressed appropriately on a Zoom interview and they're laying down holding the phone sideways, trust me, we've had that. You can let them know, hey, we're actually going to move on. Can you please, kick them out of the room, leave, make them leave. Like you don't have to be disrespectful about it. You can let them know, hey, I don't think this is going to be a good fit. We're going to have ask you to remove yourself now. The reality is you do not want to hire somebody that is laying on their bed, wearing sweats, super lazy, didn't do their hair, and they're in on a Zoom. That is not your ideal candidate. It's not who you're going to want to hire pretty much ever. So know what you're screening for and set the bar and be okay with that bar, even if it makes other people a little bit uncomfortable. If they cannot show up prepared on time, dressed appropriately, then how are you going to expect them to show up to a customer's house dressed appropriately, ready to do their job? You're not going to be able to do that. It's not going to happen. So step two, once you do the group interview, I do an individual interview. So if there's one, two, three candidates that passed everything and looked like they were strong candidates, I'll go deeper with them and I'll have a one-on-one interview on Zoom. That's where I ask more behavioral and situational type questions. I want examples from their experiences. I want specifics from them. I want to know, have they ever dealt with an unhappy customer? How did they deal with it? And give me all the details. And I will ask all sorts of questions on top of that that are not part of my structured list, but I want to know. I want to hear them communicate with me, right? And the answers that impress me are not the ones that are polished. The ones that usually impress me are the ones that are honest, the ones that are genuine. Maybe even they're willing to tell you that they made mistakes, but how they learned from them. They're willing to take ownership instead of deflect. And there's that genuine experience behind what they're saying. No fluff, no rehearsed answers. I don't want that. If that's what they're going to give me, I'm going to move on. I want someone who is genuine. I also will ask some practical stuff that most owners can gloss over, like have reliable transportation. We'll focus really big on that. If they don't have a vehicle that runs reliably, or they can't put gas in their vehicle for their first week or two of work because they just don't have any money, that's going to be a potential problem right at the get-go. So I have seen other owners lose customers because someone couldn't even make it, their new employee couldn't even make it to the customer's house because they didn't have gas. Don't get me wrong, you can send them gas money, Cash App, whatever, Zelle. There's all sorts of ways these days to do that. But still, like, know who you're hiring before you get into it, because otherwise that's going to be a problem down the road. Step three, references, background checks. These are non-negotiables. You need to verify their work history. You need to know who they worked for. You need to call their references. You need to run a background check. You are sending people into customers' homes. You cannot skip that. Industry data shows that 85% of cleaning companies are performing background checks, but that means that 15% of them are not, which means 15% of the cleaning companies out there are sending a stranger into some customer's home and hoping for the best possible outcome, which is crazy. So call their references, ask them not generic questions, ask the same types of questions about that, you know, the same kind of questions. How do they communicate? How do they take responsibility? Do they show up on time? Are they punctual? Right? You want to know who they are as an individual. So that's what you're going to be asking the references. And same, if you can check on their work history, ask their managers, ask their bosses, ask their coworkers, get as much information as you can. If they're not willing to give you references, boom, they're gone. Not even going to try to hire you. If they're not going to give you any work history, or if their work history says no, they were a terrible employee, get rid of them. Don't trust your gut. Trust the words of other people who probably unfortunately had to fire them if that's the case. There's a reason why references are a thing. There's a reason why doing a background check is a thing. You should be doing these things. So call their references, ask them not just for an endorsement, but find find that character validation that you're looking for. That who you're hiring is who they say they are. Um, with that being said, this is something I'm going to go to the next step, and I'll call it a trial period. This is something that I know most owner operators do not do, and they skip, and you should do it. I will say this, every state is different. So depending on what state or what country you're in, you're gonna have to look up the laws on this. You might not even be able to do it. I don't know if this is something you can do everywhere, but I do it in California. What that is I hire people on a trial basis. So when I hire them on a trial basis, it's considered day labor in the state of California. I do it for a short period of time. Um, at the time of making this video, the law is that I can pay them up to $600 before I need to declare either them as a 1099 or a W-2 employee, which for me, I'm in California, I can't 1099 anyway, it's only a W-2. So what I do is I take that $600 limit and I use that as the my ability to hire them for probably 4 days, 5 days, and do a trial run and see how it goes, right? I'll pay them cash, but in the meantime, let's just see if this is a good fit, right? You already did the group interview, you did the personal interview, called their references, you did a background check, but see if it's a good fit. If they never had cleaning experience before in their life, even though they might be a solid candidate and they good references and everything, they might go to clean for their first week and their body is physically beat up afterwards because it is. If you've never done cleaning, it's hard. That first week or two is something that nobody expects when they've never done cleaning before, right? That first week or two, like your body is sore. You're like, man, I didn't even know that part of my body could ache. But it's because you're on your hands and knees and you're cleaning a bathtub and you never knew what it felt like to do that 3 times a day, every single day for a week straight. And it's hard. So again, do a test period. Take a week, try to get to see if it's a good fit. And during that week, before you're fully committing to them as hiring them, you're still testing them for all of the same things. You're finding out, are is this person coachable? Can I give them instructions, or are they going to give me an attitude afterwards? If they do, get rid of them. Like, get that get it out before it becomes a huge problem in your business, right? Are they punctual? Are they showing up when they say they're going to show up? um do they have an eye for what needs to be cleaned, right? You gave them verbal instructions, maybe even pointed to some things physically, saying, hey, clean here, 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 I'll be back in 20 minutes to check on you. Did they clean those things? Are they actually looking for the dirt? Or what I recognize in a lot of people when you first hire them is they know, okay, I was told to wipe this surface. Boom, I wiped it. Okay, great, done. No. Did you look? Did you see the crumbs? Did you see the lint? Did you make sure that you rubbed your hand over the surface afterwards to make sure it's clean? Or is there something stuck to it that maybe you can't see but you can feel? So those types of things, they need to be trained, but you also use that week to find out, are they listening to that training, or are they still just going through the motions and, oh yeah, I wiped that down? Because if they go through the motions and say, oh yeah, I wiped that down, but there's still clearly a mess, probably not going to work. But again, that first week is a good way to further test their character. Maybe even give them a challenge that you don't think they're going to be able to do, like a genuinely hard challenge. And you're doing it just to see what they do. Do they break down entirely and give up? If so, again, red flag, probably not the candidate you want. Or they try their best and then they come to you and they say, look, I'm really sorry, I'm trying, but I'm not sure the best way to do this. Give them a challenge, specifically to break them down just a little bit, not so you can beat them up or make them feel bad, but so that they get into a hard situation and then you can help them out of it. And you can show them and teach them and coach them. And you can also see what their character is like. Are they still remaining coachable, or do they just get fed up and frustrated and they want to throw their hands in the air and call it a day? Right? Like, who are you dealing with? Give a little bit of pressure and put that pressure on them, and you're going to quickly find out, who am I hiring? What kind of person is? So that's what I would recommend. Spend a week, get some time with them before you're committing, and during that trial, put some pressure on them. Make it a little bit hard on them, not because you don't want them, but because, hey, if they really are a diamond in the rough, you want that diamond to shine, right? Now, with that being said, the traits that I would rank first in a hire that I'm looking for is reliability, integrity, communication, coachability, detail orientation, and finally, the least important thing that I hire for is how fast are they? Because the reality is I don't need somebody to be fast on day one. I need them to be responsible on day one, right? I need somebody that's coachable. If they have those things, I can build everything else into the employee, right? If they don't have those things, though, then none of the rest of it matters. It doesn't matter how detail oriented they are and how quick they are. Because if they can clean a bathroom quickly, but they can't communicate with a customer without pissing that customer off, it's not going to work out. So, one more thing I'll say this is candidates who have experience can be a great thing, but it also is something you should be cautious about. Sometimes experienced cleaners are exactly what they sound like. They're experienced, and so they come embedded with these bad habits. And sometimes the bad habits are not necessarily bad cleaning habits, but it's just a structural thing. It's how they want to look at a job or how they want to accomplish a job. And because of that, they're going to have resistance to your standards and to your way of doing business, your way of cleaning, your way of training. And the reality is there's a quiet belief that they think they know better than you. And so, yes, experience means that they have cleaned before, but it does not necessarily mean that they're going to clean the way you want them to clean. So, for myself, I would rather hire somebody that is coachable, that has no experience, so I can train them right and help them to grow as an individual, rather than hiring someone with experience that otherwise their character is not going to be a good fit. So I'll say this, roughly 80% of the people who make it through our training actually have stayed with us and continue with us. My turnover is pretty low. We have employees who, I mean, shoot, have been with us since the beginning. I have one guy who's been with me for over 5 years. I have two other employees who've been with me for about 3.5 years. And I have a couple others who have been with me 2 years. And then I have my newest employee who's been with me for about 8 months now. And well, that and we're going to be hiring some more people here real soon. So, but the point is this is not accidental, right? This comes from filtering out really hard up front. By the time someone gets into training, you they should have had to have already survived a group interview, a personal interview, reference checks, a background check, and a week of training before it's official. So you compare that again to the industry average, again, turnovers between 75 to 200% every year. It's because people are skipping this filter. They're skipping the hard filter to say, we're not going to do these things. We're not going to put up with these things. These things are red flags. We're not going to hire you. So don't skip those things. Remember what we talked about at the beginning. Reality is yeah, you might be losing some jobs because you need somebody to do the position, do the cleaning right away. But if you end up in a position where you hire the wrong person, it could be taking ten to $15,000 out of your pocket in the matter of a year. And if you make multiple bad hire decisions in a row because you're still just trying to fill that position, imagine what that's doing to your business. You're practically chopping yourself off at the knees. Don't do that. When it comes to hiring, filtering them out is the number one thing, right? Let the red flags be red flags and don't make it emotional. Track everything. Again, ask them objective questions and score them. It's one of the easiest ways to make it so it's not an emotional hire. Um, One more thing I'll say, culture. Before I close about culture, right? This gets used loosely a lot of times. Culture is not a mission statement. It is not a team outing. It is not a set of values that is on the wall or some sheet. Culture is consistency with who you are as the owner. That's just the reality of it. Who are you, right? Consistency in how you operate, how you communicate, consistency in your own personal values, both the values for your business and the values for your employees and the values for your customers. It's consistency in your expectations, meaning maybe you need to write them down so your employees know what they need to do in order to be doing a good job. You need to have consistency in how you communicate, whether that's verbally, over text, over email, uh, in a document. How are you communicating and is it consistent? What is your attitude? What is your tone? Do you show genuine love, care, and respect to your employees as far as it, depends on you? Um, Show consistency whenever things go wrong, right? If something goes wrong with an employee, with a job, your first thing shouldn't be, oh, you screwed up. It's your fault. It's your problem. The way I look at things first is I messed up. I messed up. Because at the bedrock layer, this is my business. So if something goes wrong, the only way it will ever get better is if I take ownership. I have to say, you know what? Yeah, Susie Q over here did go to this customer's house. And Susie did mess up and she missed X, Y, and Z during the cleaning and the customer got upset and this happened. But ultimately, that falls on me. Was my training good? Did I give her checklists to follow? And if I did all of those things and I was very, very consistent, then I need to ask myself, is this the first time, the second time, the third time this has happened? If it's the first time, guess what? It's still my fault, but it's not a big deal. Let's just fix it. Let's do some training and let's move on. Let's work it out. If it's the second time, okay, let's do some training and maybe we need to do a write up and let Susie know this is really serious. If it's happening two, three times, hey, multiple write ups and Susie, maybe this isn't going to be the best fit. I still care about you. I still want to respect you as an employee, but the reality is if this is going to be consistently damaging our customers, this might not be the job for you. And you can still say that with love, with gentleness, with respect, with honoring the other person, and being consistent with who you are in your values, right? So it's consistency. That's ultimately that's the culture of the business. The culture is who are you? Because if you're the owner, you're the operator of the business, everything you do in the business is it's going to pour out into everybody else. They're going to know if you're inconsistent. If you blow up on them and you get mad because something didn't go right one day, they're going to know if, you make rash decisions when you're upset or stressed. They're going to know who you are, and ultimately that's going to be who your business how your business is and how it operates. So, again, I think how we treat the people who work for us matters, right? Not because it's just good management, although it is, but because it matters on the way that we lead, right? The golden rule goes a long way in this business, right? Treat others the way you, right? People will work harder for you. They believe and they know that you actually respect and care. It's as simple as that. So if I have to compress this all into one line, it's character first, skill second, in that order every time. The interview is not a formality. The trial period is not optional, right? Training is not something you can do once and forget about. Training can be ongoing. It should last at least a month or two to start. And then after that, you might have to do performance reviews. You might have to retrain. You might have to remind people. And if your processes or your systems change, you're going to have to do retraining. And that's okay, right? If you build these real processes around these three things, right? Screening, testing, and then training based on all of the standards that you have, you're going to stop hiring the wrong people. You'll stop blaming the labor market for a problem when in all reality, it's your processes that are a problem. So one last thing. Some owners are going to watch this and they're going to think, yeah, that sounds great, but I don't have the time to build all of these systems. I just need someone to hire them right away. I have jobs that need to get done. And I get it. But here's what I want you to do and I want you to hold on to. Even having a piece of the system is better than having no system at all. Even if it just means you have your list of interview questions and you've decided instead of hiring people based on emotion, you're going to actually make it objective and give them a scoring rubric. And you don't have to share with them what you're scoring them, but it's something you can write down. So now it's an objective thing. That's going to help. So if you don't have a system, start somewhere. Just build a little bit of a system. Have a plan on what you're going to do. And again, I would say the biggest thing that you're going to be hiring for is hiring the right people, right? It's character. It's someone that you can trust. It's someone that's going to be able to take responsibility, to be coachable, to be punctual, make sure that they're respectful, right? You need to find those people. You can teach them how to clean. Anyone can clean. It is an entry level job. Anyone can clean, and anyone can get faster over time. With that being said, I'll give you a real quick story. One of my best cleaners is my slowest cleaner. Simple as that. I actually hired her about 8 months ago. I told you that. And the reality is she is by far the slowest cleaner. She was slow even after 2 months of training. She still is my slowest cleaner today. There are usually 2 to 3 times a week that she is going overtime on a job. It's kind of the norm. Not something I'm proud to say, but for her, it's kind of the norm. But here's also why she's one of my best cleaners. Because the reality is I can trust her at any job. And I can't say that necessarily for everybody I've ever hired. But with her, I can trust her. I can send her to any job and know that she's going to be respectful to the customer, that she's going to do a thorough job, and her cleaning is genuinely good. And I know that whenever she's out there, I'm not going to come back with a customer service issue. In fact, I have customers calling me and asking for me to send her out again specifically. So again, the reality is you're hiring to find those kinds of people. Even if they're a little bit slower, guess what? I would rather eat it and pay the extra 15, 20, 30 minutes of time that it might take her to get the job done and to get it done right, if it means that she's going to continue to make customers happy, so those customers stick with me and end up being recurring customers for a long, way more valuable to me than hiring somebody that is fast but rude. Someone that is fast but shows up late. Someone that is fast but is just disrespectful, right? Doesn't take responsibility. If I hire someone that's fast but isn't all these other things and their character is just not there, then the reality is sure, they might get the job done quick and I saved, 10, 15, $20 on that job, but they're going to cost me in customers. And as I lose those customers, it's 10 to 15 grand I'm losing down. So hire the right people, focus on their character, on who they are as people, ask them tough questions so you can get to know them better and see how they communicate. And the reality is it's better to find those people, better to take your time and not just do the knee-jerk reaction and hire the first person that comes in the door who has the ability to start on Monday, right? You don't want to do that. You will be hurting yourself in the long run. Take the time to spend the money to find all the right candidates, to filter them down until you find that one person who has the character that you want. You can train everything else, you cannot train character. Anyway, that's it for today. Um, Please like, subscribe, and what I'd ask for is in the comments, please comment and let me know what video I can make next that would really help you from operator to operator within the cleaning business. Anyway, you guys have a great rest of your day. Thank you so much. Bye bye.